So, hey, Nilesh, first of all, I would like to thank you for sparing time and joining us on a weekday for this interview. And congratulations for scaling up LeadSquared to such heights. And
Thank you so much, Deepak bhai.
As far as I know, that I think your venture started in 2011, and
Yes.
LeadSquared came into picture in 2013.
Correct,
So,
13 and yes.
Oh, great. And
towards the end of, yeah.
Today, I think LeadSquared has more than 1,000 clients with over 50,000 active users across globe. LeadSquared has been awarded as #1 marketing automation software by NASSCOM. LeadSquared has also been featured in Deloitte Technology Fast India for almost 5 times in last 6 years, besides numerous other awards and recognition. So my first question is,
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much, Deepak bhai, for having me on this session. Really appreciate it. Just one correction in what you said. So we have more than 100,000 users. So sorry, the data point has changed. Maybe there is something on the web we would have to make changes to. But I'm glad I'm here with you today. And the story of LeadSquared. So I'll sort of take a few minute time and take you in the history a bit. So my current co-founder colleagues in LeadSquared, all three of us started a company in 2003 called Proteans. And before that, we got together, through various, friends, and while we were working together in certain companies, right? And so that was the reason we got together, first of all, as a team. And then we built that business. It was a software product outsourcing business, which was bought by Symphony Telica, which is now part of Samsung in 2010. And post that, if you're an entrepreneur in a services business, right, there is always this itch sometimes to build a product, and that sort of a thinking comes in. So when we started the new business, the idea was to build intellectual property, build technology, and SaaS was coming like a new age, new area of interest, and also a great way to deliver software and service to the customer. So we thought, so we started with some few ideas we tested with, and we then zeroed in on to the concept of LeadSquared. And we started building that in 13, and I think that's what sort of so we experimented with a few ideas and figured, look, marketing and sales space is really the space where lots of action is there, and also it aligned to our the way we were. So we all sort of salespeople internally in the minds. All three of us are like that. So that's how we sort of came in and started evolving and putting that together. So kind of. That's the background, basically.
great, fantastic. And so between three of you, Nilesh, Prashant, and Sudhakar,
with all three of us are very different people. So I've been, as part of the current role, I'm mostly driving the revenue piece for the company, the sales, the marketing, and the entire customer acquisition sort of the side of the things, right? And overall business strategy. Sudhakar, keenly drives the whole product piece. Is very observant, looking at what is the need of the market, what is the customers asking for, and basically driving the product both from a feature and the roadmap standpoint, also the engineering operations, how to run the product, security, performance, and all other aspects of the product side.
Right.
And Prashant, drives the entire customer. Operation, after sales organization, and the entire other pieces of the business, administrative, like the entire G&A basically is what he drives. So all the after sales is what he basically drives. So that's how we have sort of found a balance in how we work together.
Great. So, Nilesh, if you have to look back, say, in last 8 years of journey,
what comes to my mind? See, obviously, some events you look back in the past and say, okay, this is why, So, getting Byju's as a customer, if I look back, right, was an event in itself, right? I mean, and that was 2014 October timeframe. So now, obviously, they are one of our largest customer, and through with them, we have scaled our product, scaled our business, and contributed a little in their success in some ways. So that is a one important moment if I sort of look back and say, and so before that also we had several education customers. So we were in education landscape. We also worked with a Times Pro company, Times Group company called Times Pro Learning, that we signed up in early 2014, so Jan-Feb timeframe. That was again an early customer we had. So we had that education thing going for us then. I think the second, so first few years really we were selling into education, which is kind of very contrary to what people like to do, right? The second element I would say is when we started saying, like, let's now look at financial services as an area, right? And so we signed up one of the insurance companies as a customer, Bharti AXA General Insurance, in 16, and that led us to the journey of making our product ready for regulatory environment. Meaning, if you sell into BFSI, there are I won't say hazard, but there'll be at least several dozen checkpoints you have to go through from security, regulatory. Exactly. So that process started. So then the product got better on those lines, right? I mean, because the feedback started coming in.
Right.
Third milestone which we hit was the whole design of our automation feature. And I'm not sure if you have looked at that feature personally, but I think it's a rock solid, one of the unbeatable, I would say, unmatched, piece of software which our team has created. A phenomenal, piece, and that actually drove, a lot of new sales. Meaning, people looked at that and said, "Look, what this is what I actually need when I drive my sales process." I think that was another important milestone. And this was 2017. Around the same time in 16, 17, we also 15. So we started work on mobile product in 15, but 16, 17 is when we really, build that piece of the product. So that, allowed us to go to the solve the problems of the field operations team, right? So field sales and that sort of area. So there we, had a massive development which helped, and also got us a new type of customers in our business, right? After that, I think so we have Vedantu and others. Obviously, we got in several of those customers. Then in 17-18 timeframe, another important event which happened was when we got a couple of important US customers in education. That again was another. It led to then several initiatives which helped us build our business in US. So I think if I look back, and there obviously more is happening right now, but if I look at the key growth pieces and the key elements which shape the business, I think this would be what I would say would be the key ones.
Perfect, great. Okay, one question I think which would be very close to your heart.
I did not have that, you quit business. So two parts, right? I mean, so first is in Protean's time only, we have sort of gone through that first cycle, right, of creating the business, and obviously there were hardships, but you were much younger then. So for me, even if I should see today, right, the risk of starting a business at age of 25 is very low, literally, right? Unless you have a lot of responsibilities. Fortunately, there was not much for me to support my family. I could have done independent decisions, right? Unless I borrow from them, they are fine with me, right? The family side. Right. So that was the good cushion to some degree, you can say. So I think never occurred that thought. What may sometimes happen is, did you start the right business? Meaning, did you do the right choice? Meaning, should you have built this product or that product, for example? I think those choices definitely come in. But whether I should have done the business or not, I think that doesn't occur to me. But that was it never occurs to me, honestly. It's just like you're doing this to chalte rahe, karte rahoge types. So.
Right. Perfect. Fantastic. And I think being a Gujarati, I think that comes in DNA, I believe, if I'm not wrong.
So no, yeah, I'll clarify that. So I'm from Indore, actually. I barely speak Gujarati. I'm sure the forefathers in a few centuries ago would have migrated to the Indore side of it. It's kind of near the Maharashtra and Gujarat border are not very far. So maybe there's a different dialect which is spoken there in my native. You can say it is close to Gujarati in some sense, but so I'm not a Gujarati, but yeah, forefathers came from Gujarat, like ex-Gujarat, whatever you can call, yeah.
Great. Okay, I think I've been meeting a lot of entrepreneurs who are made from scratch to whatever they are today. I think one very common observation which I've felt is that a lot of entrepreneurs, when they start with nothing, when they have achieved nothing in life, right? They put whatever they have, they put on the bet, right? So, and when when the uncertainty levels are very high, when they've not achieved anything, but the moment they achieve some success, right, where you reach a level where you start taking care of your basic expenses and you are kind of an environment where you're not burning anything, right? I think that time I've seen a lot of people becoming very conservative in their approach, and their risk-taking appetite reduces, right? Is it I'm not able to figure out what the reason behind it. And do you have?
It's opposite for me, actually. So my father is a farmer, right? And he still lives in a village, and we were sent to study in Indore, which is a city. Now it's a much bigger city than then. So there, we basically were not spending a lot of money, basically. Right? That's how we grew.
Right.
So spending a lot of money was never part of the architecture, the fundamental brain architecture or the thinking architecture, I would say. Right. Later on, and that actually I carried forward in business. In fact, if I have to say, lack of spending money at the right times actually I would have lost opportunities because of that. Because you're conservative, you think, right, if I spend money, I may lose money, right? So that. So I think an opposite should have happened. I should have spent more money in business than I think. But progressively over last 20 years, I've learned taking more risks.
Right.
Do earlier. So I think I'm far more less conservative now than I was earlier. So I think to that degree, I'm less conservative now versus what I was like maybe 10-15 years ago.
That's great, and that's a bit of exception for me. That's very good, in fact, because that's how you scale up and you move to the next orbit of your current stage of.
Absolutely. No, I think that kahawat in Hindi, right? Paise se paisa aata hai, right? I mean, I think that's very true, right? I mean, if you don't spend money, you won't get it, right? So I think that change in that mindset was, and also there is a huge change when you're operating in a services company environment to go to a product company, right? I think it requires a fundamental shift, and it took me several years to really get it right. So last company was a services company. There were services mein there is this cash flow thing. Itna kaam karo, itne paise milenge, right? And then product mein you first invest and then create something, and then somebody will pay for it. I think that's a huge leap of faith. For anyone.
Absolutely. So now I'm moving to my important area of subject basically, which is customer experience. And customer experience is the most talked about keyword in the current age. It has the ability to create difference between a leader and a follower in any sector we talk about.
See, I think customer experience is central to the success of the business, right? I mean, if somebody thinks of customer experience first, right, and then create the business or the process or whatever they are doing, it will be the business will be centered around the customer, and that will always be important. So if you don't, so ultimately, so customer experience is important, but whatever you're selling has to also be there, right? Meaning, so customer experience will be a given now. Meaning, if you don't have good customer experience, then people will go away and buy from someone else, for that matter. So customer experience is central, and it is assumed that you should have that. Other than that, people will not be buying from this. So it's a central piece of central architecture of how you design the business, and you got to think in that fashion. So absolutely.
Great.
So I think customer experience starts from the point of the first conversation, right? I mean, how you treat them, how you greet them, whether you understand their problem or not. After you pick up a check, let's say if you've sold a deal, then the onboarding of it, right? And onboarding ke baad, ongoing success for them, and the support of that. And fundamentally listening to the customer, so that today, if their business is changing, then in the product, are we listening to them enough so that we are making the right changes, so that our product is more solving the customer problem than and sort of keeping in sync with their expectation. That also sort of counts in the customer experience piece, right? So all these, so there are a lot of pieces, as you can see right now in this one line I've mentioned. So I mean, we make a very the attempts are very we make every attempt to make it smooth for the customer, but I'm sure, but I know that there are areas where we can improve, and for all companies that would be true. But each area, there are different leaders, and they have their own KRAs on how to drive that piece, and we consistently focus on that, and all our meetings are driven like that. Meaning, there are very customer centric meetings we do. That sort of drives that culture in the company.
Right. And I think one other challenge which I see that despite having a very focused customer experience strategy in any brand, moment you grow up, like moment your team size grows up, right? Obviously, you need to delegate a lot of tasks to your teams, right? And that level of delegation goes to 2 level, 3 level, 4 level down also. And at some point of time, the person who is actually facing the customer, right? He is focused on the transaction, because his KPI is to obviously give a particular output which is financial and monetary in nature, right? And he has a cake into that, right? His eyes are very limited to that particular piece of transaction, right? And sometimes that there's a central thought process, right, of what kind of experience the customer need to be given, and how that process need to be downloaded. That's take a back seat.
Yeah, I think fundamentally you need to have right leaders and managers in place, and I think that's one of the important pieces. So delivering a highest quality customer experience will require a certain degree of automation, right? Where you automate certain elements of the process. So that is one bucket of piece one need to do, right? So you cover the basics of customer experience, right? So that is one. So let's say somebody is trying to do something and then they forget to do it, you remind them to do it. So that counts that base level of I would say automation, right?
Right.
That's one. Second is, I think the whole training. So managers are a central piece of the. Managers are the key pieces in the architecture of the organization, who are one step away from the customer. Let me just say that, right? So let's say reps are in front of the customer, managers one step away from the customer. So what you instill in our managers is what is going to be reflective in the front line, right? So training, so having high quality managers and who are trained in the way system operate is very important, because then they can create a system which moves forward, right? And then having the training program not only for managers but for the reps. So getting these two together is going to be important in driving that culture, and putting the right tools and automation in place. And I'm not trying to simplify this thing, because and I'm sure there are many other pieces we can do, because customer experience is not just manager, employee, and tools, right? I mean, the customer goes through different journeys, but there'll be different managers when they go through different journeys in their life cycle with the business, right? So each piece is important. So for example, I mean, as simple as sending an invoice to a customer, right, when they've already paid, right? I mean, very simple. Right now, that piece can potentially be automated. So you need certain systems where the transaction is getting logged and the customer is not getting bothered by that silly invoice which they've already paid, right? So that also. So but who's going to look into these minor things will be the managers, right? Somebody who is observant that, look, this should not happen again. If it is happening, I'm going to fix it, right? So I think they are the key sort of drivers of these business, and getting them trained into the culture, architecture of how you want to deal with your customers will be super important, which is what sort of drives in the reps on the front line as well. So that I don't know if maybe it's too simplistic, but this is how I'm sort of thinking of it and how I operate basically.
Fantastic. And do you think that customer experience can be measured? And do you use any tool or any process whereby you monitor and measure your customer experience happening around your product?
So on the product side, there are some tools we use for NPS, is for the product piece. But I think that's I would call it as a user side of because see, there are multiple constituents on the customer side also, right? So there'll be users who are users of the software, right? And there'll be, and I'm just simplifying this maybe too much, but then there'll be business guys who are driving certain productivity using our product, right? That is one. And then there'll be executive, the ones who is writing the check to buy our software and use our software, right? So all three will have a different degree of expectation and experience which we'll offer. So we use NPS tools. With the business guys, we have what we call as a ongoing customer success session or quarterly review, depending on where the customer falls in, right? And from the level of intervention needed to work with them. And finally, at an executive level, so one of us founding team members or one of our senior team members would be involved with our customer side on the other side. So basically, so that we have the right feedback going in at each level. So I think that sort of combines, if I may say. So the next two we use. So in one category we use NPS kind of tools. Then we have tools specifically for customer success, where we look at the overall health score of the customer, how they're using the software, and are they able to drive the efficiency they want. And now we are sort of doing more on the efficiency side, sales efficiency. We're basically doing things like, look, if your sales efficiency is so and so, first we record it and then say how can we improve that, right? So it is not a question. A lot of you see in customer success organization, the major focus of all these, most of these guys, is to make people use the software. I am of a view that using is not the end in itself. What they get out of that, after they use, there is a transaction which is going to happen or some other outcome which is going to come in. I think we need to focus on that and see whether that is happening efficiently or not. So we are going to that next step. At least we have started to try that, which will basically then the customer will realize, okay, look, if I use this, these are the efficiency gain I have, because then it is in dollars and cents you can possibly write those. So I think these are 3-4 things we're sort of doing from a tools and process perspective.
Hang on, I believe. One more question, I think. What would be the 2-3 major points you would like to advise them? Okay, this is what to focus on. This is maybe a do and don't of in your language.
Yeah. So ultimately, everybody has their own learning curve. So I think my advice will be more restrictive because some things you already know, you don't need any advice on. Other things you learn from experience because you don't see some of the things. I think the first thing is to advise any entrepreneur starting. I think distribution. I mean, that's the first thing. Meaning, you got to think how you will sell whatever you're making. I mean, I think that's super important because creating a beautiful product is certainly a very good thing. But whether that product never sees a customer, then I think it's a disservice to the product, right? Because good product not getting sold, not getting the user is actually even more painful. So I think thinking distribution, and why I say that, because if you think distribution day upfront, you will not make a mistake of creating a product where the problems for distribution exist, right? So I think that would be, so distribution, think distribution first would be important, because if you figure out the distribution, then the product, if the product is aligned to the distribution, then it's going to run really, really fast. I think distribution is definitely the first thing I would say. Second is I think depending on what product you are creating, right? I mean, some products are business software. When I say business software, meaning, look, I cannot imagine, let's say if you have not run a manufacturing company yourself, right? You won't know what happens on the shop floor, right? And if you don't know what happens on the shop floor, look, you cannot imagine and create any software for them. I mean, one can be a genius, but you cannot imagine how people operate on shop floor. So you have to actually go and look at the shop floor, right? So meaning, when you create a software which is very because we have created a process-centric software, so it's not a consumer software, it's a business process tool, right? Sales efficiency improvement. So then you need to observe, look, and then see, okay, what is that change we're going to make, right? So I think, and that in the early days when you create, some companies have actually done it very well. So they create a pod of people, right? Meaning, you have the sales guy, you have the product guy, and you have the service guy. Like, they are like sort of working together, right? So what you create, you sell, and the customer says quickly, and then the feedback sort of, and everybody knows that we have the same objective of solving this one particular problem. So I think that accelerates, and I think if I have to do this again, and I would probably approach this way, so that there is more. We were basically having our own track of product development. The feedback was coming, it was getting incorporated, but the reaction time was not that fast in our case, right? So I think that was the second piece, I would say. And third is, if you can raise money, please do. I think, and create a story which will allow you to raise money, because it's it can get hard for people. If you don't have money, then you end up basically working very hard and not and creating only difficulties for yourself and your family, maybe, right? And I was lucky that I sold the first company. There was some money for me, and so I could survive the period. But the first time entrepreneurs would actually go through a very hard time. So raising money is a positive, because it gives you that little cushion. Also, more importantly, it validates whether whatever you are trying to do, whether it is something new. Like, because if nobody is willing to put money in, that doesn't mean that you have a bad idea. I mean, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that it gets easier, right? If people align with your concept and you raise money. I think these three probably I would suggest. And maybe some people are very good at storytelling, so they don't need this advice actually.
I think you have made very valid point, because I met a lot of entrepreneurs, especially startups and all that, and I see a lot of obsession about their product, right? Which gives a very scary feeling, because when you go into market, right, and you get hammered, black and blue, and then you come back, and if you're not flexible enough to capture all those information and then again go back, I think somewhere you will fail, right? Somewhere you will say, okay, I have a unique product, market is not ready for me. I've seen a lot of people saying that also, that my product was ahead of time, or it's too much, people are not ready to accept it, right? I think you have beautifully explained that how it need to work. Ultimately, it has to be sold in a market and somebody to consume it, right? And the value will be to begin to the customer, not to you, I think.
And absolutely. And I think, everybody is wired differently in their head, right? So, I'm wired distribution first. I have to see, it's just that's the first thing which comes to me, how it's going to be taken to the market, like who's the buyer. So so that's just how my head works. So but that's extremely important, because if you get the distribution right, an average product can also make money. Absolutely. If you can solve the distribution puzzle, maybe you're making tons of money, like the profits will come faster. So you create, because product creation takes money, distribution is going to take money, service is going to take money. Like, you'll be killed, right? If you spend so much money.
Absolutely. Great. So Nilesh,
I think we have created a platform. We have reached a certain level. Let's just say that, right? I think from here it is only a bigger jump. Should be the next logical path for us. We have I think a good way to look at if the business is going right is to say that if you are able to attract valued partners and who are willing to work with you, I think is a good measure to say that you have done something which market wants, and there are other people who'd like to join and basically see the value of going to the market together. I think that because now that has started to happen in our business, I see that it's only upward from here, because all the hard work in creating the first set of the market customers and users and to a point where other third parties see value in working together with us, I think is a great moment for us. And thankful to you as well, as you see us as a potential partner for your business.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a great validation of the story, and I think from here on it should just move forward and probably and scale to the logical next heights, right?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. In fact, I think one good thing which I like about LeadSquared is that so there are a lot of technology product available in market, right? And the challenge is that even today, as on date, the product and the need, right? The people who actually need it, right? So either, especially the about the small and medium enterprises, basically, which are difficult to crack in terms of, because you need to create a model to develop an ROI
around them, yes.
Right. And you have high attrition rate, high failure rate. So all those business nuisance which you can easily ignore into when you work with a class client, right? Where you meet a few clients, you get good price, and then you have to work less and get more. But this is something which is a very different story. But I think this is the story which will come in the picture next 5 to 10 years. Like the new unicorns will come from this bucket only, right? So if we can cater to this right now, and then you tag around with those companies in times to come, I think this is where we are personally focusing on it, and LeadSquared was a perfect way to do that. We have our own product also. We loaded into best product also. So one thing is very clear, that the startups or the small or the medium community, enterprise community, they also deserve the best, and they also deserve at their cost and at their flexibility levels, right? So I think we are finding very, very comfortable, and we hope to make it go good at that level also.
No, absolutely. I think I'm glad you chose us to work with you, and hope I'm hoping all the support you're needing from our side to make it a
issue. So I'll talk that differently, because that even for that. One last and very important question for me personally is that I think the moment you have been told about this interview, and I think that book must have been brought in your knowledge that this is a book about. What is the first thing which comes in your mind after reading that title of the book?
Well, I think it's a very this Jugaad obviously reminds people of the classic Indian way to do things with probably lower cost and stuff. And I think Junoon is certainly plays a role in the head of the entrepreneur, right? I mean that drives them to achieve something. I think the Jarurat. Probably people forget what they wanted actually when they started, right? I mean, so I think that I'm not sure, if, but the other two pieces is sort of comes in together. But I'd like to hear from you as well. What sort of prompted you to? Because this is not what I, whatever just came to my head after I saw the title. But I would love to hear from you. Yeah.
See, everyone has their own version of Junoon, Jarurat, and Jugaad. Like for me, Junoon is basically again passion. And how do I define passion? Because I see a lot of people who say I have passion for this, but then I ask them, okay, how do you define that it is passion? It is not desire. So I get confused on that. So what I believe is that something which you want, and in lieu of that, in lieu of infinite pain, if you are ready to buy that, right? Then it's passion. Rest all is desire. That I want this, but if the moment there is a but, it's a desire. It's not a passion, right? So that's how I define the passion, right? Jarurat is basically not my Jarurat, basically that as an entrepreneur, what product I make, right? How well I understood the need of my consumer.
Got it.
So that is what I think is as a businessman, you need to understand that you need to have passion, you need to understand the need, right? And Jugaad is basically because we all, like how we survive in India, right? It's a tough, it's not that easy for anyone, right? Who walks in with even the brilliant of idea and with the rest of the execution team, right? So you have to see the next day, right? So keep the ball rolling. That's what I believe in that. So Jugaad is a very, I think, undervalued term even today, that later on you can patent it and you can actually make royalty out of it. But at that particular day, it's a jugaad, right?
Yeah.
It is important because that gives you the hope for the next day.
Absolutely.
Right? That's how you keep the ball rolling, right? Otherwise, you will never be so resourceful that you can do everything in the perfect manner. You have to see the next day, and you have to move to the next day. So that's what.
Absolutely. No. I think now I get I think it's perfect. बिल्कुल सही कहा आपने. It is perfectly aligned because you have to have passion. You need to understand need, and you need to be ready to do whatever it takes to sort of whatever hacks you need to do to basically survive and grow. So absolutely नहीं बढ़िया है, बहुत बढ़िया है ये. Now I sort of Jarurat, I was not able to, because see, what came to my mind was my Jarurat, which was not right. But in the context of business, it is the customer Jarurat, which is what you have done. So absolutely, perfect. Right.
So idea basically is that these are the three elements which is required into any entrepreneur to succeed, and the fourth element which people miss is the customer experience, which can actually help you out in terms of either you become a follower into industry, even you're successful, or you become a leader.
Yeah.
So I think the key differentiator would be the customer experience. So that's where we are trying to build all those, bring all those points together and see that what is required to make a company which is threat-proof and future-ready, and which is a customer-centric, and from a follower you become a leader. That's where that is about that. So Nilesh, so much thank you for your sparing your time and so much honest feedback on everything what I asked for that. And I wish you all the best. And very soon I'll be coming back to you with whatever we have discussed. I'll try to summarize it up, give it back to you, take your validation on that before it goes to publication. But absolutely wonderful talking to you and a lot of insight which came to me. So thank you and all the best to LeadSquared and all the best to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Deepak bhai. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And all the best. This book sells, hundreds of thousands of copies, and I'll help you. I'll help in whatever way I can.
Sure. Thanks.
Thank you, and thanks for being a partner. Thank you.
Thanks.